From the Daily Mail, Brits are caught up in a terrifying night of violence as French music festival descends into stabbings and surprise sex incidents with multiple women stabbed with syringes. Hang on a sec. France has always been a dump. This isn't news. Let's talk about the Prime Minister instead, shall we? That's better. Right, unless you live under a rock, you're well aware that slippery Starmer has finally resigned. The man was unbelievable. You almost have to admire his tenacity, because I think he's certainly the worst Prime Minister of my lifetime. Definitely the worst that's squatted in Downing Street since I was a lad. Possibly the worst ever. I've never known a man lie so much. He made Boris Johnson, the fat albino jellyfish, look honest by comparison. But nothing mattered to him. He had a talent for just living in La La Land and pretending nothing assailed him. Didn't matter whether rent boys were setting his house on fire in weird circumstances. He got caught taking bribes. I think he lied more prolifically than anybody else, and he got caught lying, barefaced lies, every single day. He then got humiliated by President Trump, which is amazing. Trump announced his resignation 24 hours before he did, which was fantastic. God bless him. And now we're in the situation which the Labour Party have schemed to make a reality, in that the party detested him, the MPs detested him, the people detested him, so they thought the only chance we've got of actually winning the next general election and keeping our jobs is if we bin him and get a new straight white man in charge, because, of course, it's the Labour Party, which is a hypocritical left-wing party. You don't get left-wing without rank hypocrisy, which is why the party that's always talked about diversity and equity and inclusion is constantly led by a straight white man. And obviously, Burnham is going to be getting the job, because it's not a real party. No, they're autocrats, globalist sociopaths, and they tell you how the world should be, and they make it happen. I explained this to Paula yesterday. There is no debate, no discussion with the members. Burnham's going to be the Prime Minister. That was the plan all along, because they see that as the safest route to keeping their slippery, grasping hands on power. So that's what's going to happen. Andy Burnham. I mean, do I need to make a video about Andy Burnham? Really? I think rather than bore you all with the details, people don't watch me for serious, in-depth political analysis, so I'll give you the short version. Essentially, replacing Keir Starmer with Andy Burnham is like replacing Jimmy Savile with Gary Glitter. Right? That's where we're at in the UK. But none of this is good for you and yours. What is interesting, though, is what tactics are going to be employed now, because there are a few hints on X as to what the political class think is going to happen. Before I get to that, though, I just want to forever destroy one myth, because I don't want the androgynous android, the weasel, the low-life gutter snipe that has plagued my dreams for the last 2 years. I don't want him to have a legacy. I don't want him to be given these pleasant eulogies by his colleagues, right? I'm sick and tired of hearing the words decent man about Keir Starmer. You hear it all the time, because like everything, it's spam. It's coming off spin doctors. They just use the same terms over and over and over again. Keir Starmer is not a decent man. As I keep telling you, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. And a bloke like Keir Starmer, who's lied and schemed with foreigners to impose their will on the British people, isn't just a bad Prime Minister, he is a traitor, he's a quisling. And you know this because of the people that are praising him. Because guess who was first to open a mouth? And it's a bit weird because you don't often see other world leaders instantly leaping in to give a full-throated defence of someone whose political star has just fell from the sky. That's not smart politics. But one person was. Ursula von der Scheisserporn. It can take many leaders years to grow into the statesman you became in just 2 years. European and Ukrainian security is stronger because of you. Thank you, dear Keir. Dear Keir. Who's going to post something glowing about him next? Darth Vader? Why don't we do a seance? Yeah, get a Ouija board. See if we can get Harold Shipman to pop up and say nice things about him. Could you pick anyone worse to say glowing things about you on the internet? This is brilliant. Brilliant. Oh yeah, and Patrick Maguire, who once described Keir Starmer as a decent man, following the herd, said he's never received more complaints from Labour people. They said, I agree with every word of your column, up to the last bit. He's not a decent man. Even the people who know him know he's a weasel, a snake. He cannot utter a sentence without lies spewing from rolling off his forked tongue. So let's not talk about Starmlin ever again. I hope he vanishes into obscurity up until the day we get actual right-wing governments in charge, and then we can have a national referendum on capital punishment, and fingers crossed, if the gods are good, he can swing for high treason, because the man is in league with globalist sociopaths from legions of foreign nations that are about as interested in the well-being of the British people as the aforementioned Dr. Shipman was interested in your good health and longevity if you had a very large bank account and a 12-acre estate in the home counties. For his part, Awld Froggy has demanded a general election to fix broken Britain, as you might expect. Let's give him a minute to make his case.
On May the 7th, in the Midlands, Yorkshire, all the north of England, Reform scored absolutely stunning victories in areas that Labour had dominated for the best part of 100 years. The sheer scale of our victory against Labour made it inevitable that this Prime Minister could not survive. And because of that, Burnham steps forward and wins quite convincingly the Makerfield by-election, ironically with the same message that we had in the local elections. Ours was vote reform, get Starmer out. His was vote Burnham, get Starmer out. Unbelievably, we're about to have our 6th Prime Minister in 7 years. I remember growing up thinking Italy was totally ungovernable as they went through a new Prime Minister every year, and yet that's where we are here.
Yeah, can you imagine that? The Italians are making us look bad. That's how far we've fallen. A nation that hasn't been able to run a piss up in a brewery for 100 years is now pointing at us and going, hey, they're all f***ing idiots. That's how bad it's got. Again, I'm going to start calling myself Claude and affecting a French accent. Probably a little bit undersexed for a Frenchman. Maybe if I just start wanking 3 times a day, I can sort of smooth the transition for myself.
Whether it was the tax on family farms, the giving away of the Chagos Islands and much else that wasn't in the manifesto. If it is Mr. Burnham, he didn't even stand at the last general election. Britain is broken. 6 prime ministers in 7 years should convince you of that fact. We are ready for a general election, and I suspect many of you too are ready for a general election. The thought we're going to go through weeks, maybe months of paralysis in a country whose debt is rising faster than any country in the world apart from Botswana, where the boats continue to come across the English Channel every day. The whole thing is not acceptable. Let's have a general election. Let's get a government with a clear democratic mandate.
There you go. So, obviously, it behooves Froggy to get an election pulled because he wants to get into Downing Street himself. And now, here's the best bit, which I'm sure some of you didn't see coming. Turns out, Burnham's a gambling man. Some people thought he'd just waltz into Downing Street without a mandate. Jacob Rees-Mogg was certainly pushing for an election as well, because I think he feared he was just going to do what he wanted with no mandate from the public. But it turns out Burnham's a gambling man, and he probably sees how the right is fractured, and he's extremely popular up north and with Labour stalwarts, so he probably thinks now might be the right time, because he tweeted this out shortly afterwards. #general election now. So, what does this mean for us? Burnham's going to be the leader of the Labour Party. That's obvious. I think he's made quite a clever decision because he has seen that the right is indeed fractured across three quite sizable parties, that being Reform, Restore, and somehow about 8% of the nation still seem to be completely brain dead, mouth breathing conservative voters, which astounds me. And I voted for them for 12 years. I'll fully hold my hands up and admit to that. It's embarrassing, right? But the point is, it's likely the left will galvanise behind Andy Burnham. They tactically vote. And the UK, because the general public have got about as much sense between them as 9 chicken McNuggets, they may all galvanise behind the left and then the right get trounced because they're still split between Reform, Restore, the Conservatives. So, Burnham's gamble might well pay off. Boys and girls, we might be in serious shit. So what do I recommend? I recommend doing what I told you lot I was going to do if the needle didn't move in 3 years, which is, despite the fact I have multiple concerns and reservations about reform, the least worst option is always a choice. Peter Hitchens taught us that, and he was right. If they pull a general election in the next couple of months, I suggest not just holding your nose and voting reform, I suggest full-throated, door-knocking, tarmac pounding, conker deep in Froggy's shitlocker support for reform, because the alternative is a man who is as left-wing as Keir Starmer and about as interested in your health and well-being as Starmer as well, and Dr. Shipman. So, that's my opinion. I'll have to get on with Dino and have an argument with him because I'm sure he will obstinately stick his heels in. I've argued with the right about this a lot in the last couple of years, but I'm a pragmatist. I will definitely take a Froggy government with Rupert Lowe nipping at his heels. And the party members themselves, again, because we all know the Reform Party members are a decent lot, trying to steer the party to the right, rather than doing the Boris Johnson approach and pandering to people that will always despise you. You need to lean into your base if you're right-wing, which is what Trumpy Bear did, not Boris Johnson. Win a massive mandate and then spend your entire time in office pandering to people who would dance on your grave. That's what needs to happen. That's my opinion. I am ever the pragmatist. I'll definitely promote reform if we see a general election in the next month and a half. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not interested in right-wing purity spirals. I'm not an accelerationist. I don't want to see 5 years of total collapse just so I can say, told you so at the end of it, and do things the Starship Troopers way. There is a sliver of a chance that maybe reform could win a general election, and then at least, cutting the deficit and deporting 100,000 people a year would be a start. Then maybe people would go, whoa, this seems to be working pretty well. Let's have more of that. That's a better alternative than suffering through 5 years of hardline socialists in charge. At least it is in my book. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.